Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Man, oh, and then the camera doesn't work. That's hilarious. I wanted to be ready for this news that's coming up here in just a few seconds. And I just was not quite there. Right. Okay, here we go. In about 5 seconds. Okay, a little bit of up movement. I can see initial jobless claims 235 versus 238, so that's in line. I'm still waiting on core PCE. GDP is 2.8 versus 2%. That's going to hammer the things down a little bit. Okay, here's PCE. Prices 2.9 versus 2.7. So it is a sell. Was it getting some backwash and it kind of stopped right there at 111.00 half. Well, I don't think I could have made a sell in all of that, so it's okay that I wasn't ready, like, right when things hit, but let's come and look at what's going on in the market, because I think we do have a market today. Why is this, like, being weird, by the way? Oh, well. Okay, so we are seeing risk off flows across the board. Treasuries are up, but not that much. S&P 500, they ended the day at the lows and were a tiny bit lower overnight. Oil also selling off pretty drastically. And gold and silver, they got hammered yesterday too. Kappa. Not looking good. The only thing that really looks good is the Japanese yen. Oh man, does the Japanese yen look good. In fact, we're getting back into some of these levels where there was some earlier intervention and stuff. So they're looking pretty good over there. The carry trade in the Japanese yen is like unwinding in a big way. And then Bitcoin also taking a little bit of a hit. So it's risk off flows across the board. I wouldn't say that it's like coming through dramatically for the treasuries yet, though. I would have expected with such risk off flows to be quite a bit higher than the treasuries are. So it seems to me that, at least for the time being, that we are not getting those risk off flows into treasuries yet. Okay, so they are kind of consolidating there at the 111.00 half area. Appears to be the initial liquidity hole that we form. So this is interesting. You know, the volume profile charts don't really show it. Let me go back here. Yesterday. This was weird. This was really, really weird. So we're like, okay, we got back and forth. It's kind of middle, like we're reading these as relatively decent moves that were, you know, possibly trades. And then right there is where we end our stream. And about 30 minutes, an hour after we end our stream, it starts selling. And then here's the auction. So there was a bit of a It was kind of a confusing auction. Like the internals and everything looked okay, but like the numbers wasn't necessarily a great auction though. And then it just kept selling. It just kept selling. And I really didn't get any kind of good explanation as to what the order flow was, but strong movement in the yield curve. So we are getting a steepener here. We're getting a bear steepener though. Getting a bear steepener. And then you can see, kind of like retracement overnight. So like some weird stuff's going on in the treasuries. We actually are getting activity here. Yesterday probably could have been a trade, but I didn't know what was going on today. I think we're more likely to get a trade. Liquidity looks a little bit frayed there. Like we are getting like 3,000s, but the insides there look a little skittish. And we're still ticking up and down on less than 1,000 contracts. But we came all the way back down to the bottom end of that range. And what are we at in yields? 2.23. What is this? We estimate that non-farm payrolls, as reported by the establishment survey, will likely be revised down by 730,000 for the last 3 quarters of 2023, says Bloomberg economist. I'll add, if the Fed waits until September to cut, still our baseline, it is probably too late. Isn't there a meeting in August, though? Double check that. They are trimming. They're definitely trimming like their rate cut bets here today. That's pretty. So let's see here. We get FOMC on the 31st. Oh, I will be gone for that. And that sucks. But that will probably be a pretty important Fed meeting. And then, oh yeah, meeting minutes. So not until September. At the beginning, okay, mid-September, 18th, September 18th is the next Fed meeting. I kind of feel like that maybe I'm splitting hairs, or we, because we're talking about Bloomberg's comment there, right? Is saying that like we're 1 month or 2 months behind for cutting. Are we splitting hairs, or does it really matter? You cut 1 or 2 months too late, because this is not the first time that we have wondered this ourselves, right? Looking at some of this economic data, it really seems to me like the Federal Reserve should be cutting right now. Of course, the number that we just got, the GDP number that we just got, does not suggest that the Federal Reserve needs to cut right now. That puts us in a really interesting spot, doesn't it? Well, we're going to be paying real close attention to what Powell says next Wednesday, huh? My allergies getting the best of me this morning. I should add, by the way, that from that comment from Uzi, that's not the first time that Bloomberg has said that about the non-farm payrolls, that there's likely to be significant revisions in it. They sounded that alarm like a month ago, wasn't it? That makes me wonder how much of that is in the GDP that we just got. Because that's 2.9 versus 2. That's a pretty big beat for GDP. Like almost a whole %. That's a pretty big beat. Doesn't look like the treasuries have enough juice to really aggressively push from here, though. Like, the sell orders that you would need to be able to get yourselves out of the hole and continuing to push lower is not coming. I'm continuing to see in the cumulative delta, like, backwash. If we really felt strongly that it was a sell, and I'm not sure that I do, well, let's come in and take some notes here. So we had risk off flows across the board. Bear steepening in curve. GDP better than expected. Core PCE tomorrow. And Fed meeting next week. We also... well, there was an auction yesterday, so is there an auction today? There is. There's a 7-year auction at 11. And then tonight, Tokyo Core CPI. That's also something worth keeping in mind. So I think I should expect to see varied hedging flows, since we're kind of ahead of a lot of big events. The risk off flows I think should be a buy, but it's been like bear steepening yesterday. And then GDP better than expected, that's a sell. Auction, that's a buy. Tokyo Core CPI, maybe a sell. So I think, yeah, varied flows. I don't see an explicit, like, one side or the other has an explicit advantage. But I do see enough flows that we should probably get some decent back and forth trade. And given that we have sold here after the GDP news, that does kind of tilt things a little bit in favor of the sellers, doesn't it? So let's kind of work with that. Maybe there's enough of a retrace. In fact, in this situation, it wouldn't surprise me to see this retrace all the way. And maybe we could get a little trade on it coming back. Some interesting things happening across the retail trading community lately. Continuing to see people complain about Apex trading, like issues with Apex trading and Rhythmic. Like, what? And I'm seeing a lot more people struggling with their funded trader accounts, and I'm seeing some funded trader programs seemingly going under. I'm seeing some weird kind of threads that or should I say weird? I don't know, threads that aren't as common, like I blew my account. Oh my gosh, there was this one thread on Reddit the other day where this guy really blew a ton of money, and I was like, what the heck were you, what were you doing? How did you blow that much that fast? Oh, yay, they're installing fiber internet in your neighborhood and it's going in super fast. You know what that means, though, Uzi, right? Is that it means that you're going to have to buy 10G everything. 10G router, 10G switch, not exactly cheap. I don't have that. I just have a regular router. Should have gotten a 10G. Maybe someday. I'm pretty sure that the wires would handle it. There's only 2 people in our household. You don't need fiber. Yes, you do. I'll explain to you why you do. You probably don't need the bandwidth. So you don't need, what you're saying is, what you should say is, I don't need 10G. But fiber is faster. Your signal will get there faster. The pipe is bigger too, but it's faster, substantially faster than like cable internet. So like, you switch to fiber, you should like notice a difference in your ping. I don't know, for Florida, Florida's not that far away from data centers, but it could be as much as like 20 to 50 milliseconds actually, which for trading purposes is not insignificant. Like, I guess for discretionary trading, the biggest bottleneck in that whole system is going to be you. So it's not like you can't be competitive with that or anything like that, but it will be a benefit to you. Will be a benefit. Let's see, on a positive note, hopefully I'll have fiber soon too. Difference for me is with fiber, I'll get much faster and at much less money. You'd be stupid not to fiber. When I was playing games, that was the place where like it really made the difference. It's like, oh wow. It was so funny. It was like, oh, wow, I can finally play internet games at like the level and ping that I want to. But then they have stupid matchmaking that doesn't give me the best servers. And I don't like any of the games. So like the technology is finally to the place where I can play the games the level that I want. And I'm not interested in playing them. Yeah. Computers go on for 4 hours for day trading, and the way we trade going through all the stuff for fiber isn't worth making the change? Well, so what do you think would be involved in getting fiber? I mean, I suppose it wouldn't make sense for you to like get a 10G switch. If that's what you're saying, that's definitely true. But like just switching from what are they, Cox cable internet over to like fiber. Guy comes in 1 hour, replaces the boxes. Totally worth it. Totally worth it. Oh, do they have to install it? I don't need to purchase new equipment. I don't need all that stuff because something is cool and futuristic. I don't know, man. You know what? For me, not having to deal with Comcast, totally worth it. Possibly the greatest thing I ever did in my life. Getting fiber optic internet and not having to deal with Comcast anymore. Oh, I hate Comcast so much. It also super triggers me and upsets me when like all of my streaming services are constantly increasing their price, and like they want me to have to buy like 8 different streaming bundles, and because that was Comcast. That's what I hated about Comcast. And then they kept jacking the screw you guys. Now, where I live, the one thing that is a downside to fiber optic, though, is that you have to pay 2 bills. You pay one bill to the line provider and one bill to the service provider. So, you don't even have us, not even Netflix. Wow. I'm impressed. I'm a little bit envious. You're my hero, Uzi. Doesn't even have a streaming service. You're totally my hero now. I wish that was me. If it was just me, I think I would do that too, to be honest with you. Now, you know what? I think I would keep Crunchyroll. I'm really liking Crunchyroll right now. I watched some Near Automata. It's pretty good. I'm like, maybe I should play the games. Wouldn't mind. But like, I'm not really into anything I see on Netflix anymore. I'm tired of Disney. I'm telling you, like, Disney Plus is the only thing keeping this household sane, because the toddlers, they will watch a Pixar movie. But, you know, I just need to switch over. You know what's one of the things that really irks me, by the way? WALL-E, the movie WALL-E, does not stream very well. Like, if you watch it on Blu-ray, it looks very different to what like the encoding and everything that they do, like, really changes that movie for some reason. Anyways, I hung on to Hulu for as long as I could, but the hiatuses with the stuff I watched on it are too big to warrant pay. Oh yeah, that's a good point. You know, I constantly see that it's, you know, like, you know, there's a couple of shows go, like The Boys, for instance, and I'm seeing a lot of complaints about the shows that are coming out. But I'm like, yeah, I don't know if you can really expect anything to be too great right now, because they're still kind of reeling from that writer's strike. Nier Automata is an amazingly full game. It has an amazing story and more hours of gameplay than almost any other game you can get. Oh, really? So tell me, in the game, do the robots all, like, say, please don't kill me, you know, that sort of stuff like they do in the show? Because that might be a little too traumatizing. I mean, I don't know where they're going with it here in the anime, but like it kind of seems to me like they're kind of saying that, like, maybe the machine life forms aren't so bad. Oh, it came all the way back down to 111 even. Did I miss an opportunity there? Maybe, but like that would have just been like intuition and market cycles, and not necessarily any kind of flow that I'd be expecting to come through. I think that there could be some more selling flows, but that return to 111 I don't think was really due to a major flow. It just kind of got pulled back into the hole. Yes, but it happens much slower and a lot more real feeling than a silly show could probably get across. TV and movies started falling off my library in 2016, and now they're completely gone. Video games in 2012, still watch YouTube. It's free. That's what my uncle says. He's like, you and my uncle would probably get along really well. But it was funny because when I saw Dune 2, I thought Dune was so good. I thought the second Dune was so good. I just wanted to watch it again. And he was like, yeah, you know, don't go to any movies right now. And from what I've seen, it's not as good as the 1984 Dune. And I'm like, are you? I didn't say anything, but I'm like, you really thought that the 1984 Dune was good? Okay, whatever. And then he did eventually watch, and he was like, oh, it was so good, but like it didn't have any, you know, like they changed all of these things. And I'm like, oh, like, so what was it that wasn't in there or that changed that you weren't into? And it was the thing that he wanted to see that he didn't see that really disappointed him was that they didn't have all of the stuff about the weirding way. Like in the 1984 one, they have like this segment where each one of them does their like weirding way move or something like that. And I think he was expecting to see that, and we didn't get it. Which I thought was kind of funny because, like, that's not in the book. I don't think they really talk about the weirding way in the first book at all. That was really them picking up stuff from, like, other books and inserting it in. They did that a lot in the 1984 movie. But, yeah, it was funny. But then, generally, no movies. I wonder if he'll watch the new Alien. His favorite show is Aliens. And the new Alien that's coming out, it looks like it might be good. Gotta be super, especially when you're talking about Alien sequels, man. Right? Gotta be super careful, because, you know, Alien 3 looked pretty good, and it was terrible. Oh, dude. There's been a lot of shows. Oh my gosh, how did I get on this? There's a lot of shows that are like disappointing, right? Okay, like I thought that The Last Skywalker was disappointing. It was like the very beginning of it, and Luke Skywalker throws the lightsaber away, and I'm like, what the heck? Okay, well let's let them cook. Let's see where it goes. And you know, I'm kind of like watching it, and then when I'm done and I'm out of the theater, and then I'm thinking about the show, and I'm like, no, this was a bad show. Okay, but Aliens 3 is like, they're rolling the credits at the beginning of the movie, and you're seeing what happens, and they kill off all of the interesting characters that you were excited to see, and you like know right there from the very beginning that it's a crappy sequel. Oh, nothing destroys itself early on more than Aliens 3. Oh man. Or is it Alien 3? I don't think there's an S on that one, because there's only one alien in Alien 3. It's not a good or bad thing. It's just a complete absence of interest. Well, you do have more, you know, I do think building things is generally more interesting, right? I found a guy this weekend that was selling Stanley planes. So, I got two of them. One of them doesn't have like the blade though, but you know, I was able to take parts between them and make a pretty good plane. I think it still needs to be cleaned up a bit and stuff, but it works. It works. And I find just taking a piece of wood and scratching shavings off of it, super interesting. Super interesting to me. I'd rather go for a 2-hour walk. Oh, I don't know if I could do that. There was a time period when I was a missionary in the middle of the winter. Like, it was really, really cold. Man, it gets so freaking cold in the Midwest. Doesn't, like in Utah, if it's like below zero, it's like it's cold and you don't want to be outside. But in the Midwest, like below freezing. But in the Midwest, it was frequently below zero for like the whole day. Oh man. And somebody stole our bikes. Yeah, that's what happened is our bikes got straight up stolen. They were locked up, but somebody cut the thing and stole the bikes. And which was a shame because it was a Gary Fisher. And I liked it. But we had to walk everywhere. And, you know, there was times when, you know, we had to go like 2 or 3 miles away, and that was like a several-hour walk. So we couldn't get a whole lot done. And I found that so mind-numbingly boring. So boring. It's not a lifestyle pitch. Well, that's kind of interesting because we're back down towards the low. I'm still not seeing that oomph that I would like to see for the 10-year to go lower, but maybe the 30-year is able to drag them down. Huh? it's kind of one of these things where it doesn't, like, you notice, like, anytime that it gets to those ends, I'm kind of like anticipating a break and then for like chaos to be launched loose and all of that sort of thing. But lately, we don't really see that. It will come down to that low and it'll be like super nonchalant. It's like, there's nothing interesting about this price at 30. It's the same as what it was at 111. And then even sometimes when it does break, it even like is just kind of uninteresting even after it breaks too. Well, yeah, they traded 29, but it's not too exciting yet. Maybe they keep going though. Maybe this is the move. It's just less clutter. I can get enough from YouTube, Twitter, and general internet to satisfy my interest. You know what? I'm not getting that much from YouTube these days either, though. I think YouTube broke itself. I really think that YouTube broke itself. Maybe it wasn't YouTube itself, but Mr. Beast. Maybe it was Mr. Beast. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. Because now that's got me thinking it's like this ongoing saga. Anytime that somebody becomes super famous influencer, right? And then like eventually bad stuff comes out. This time Mr. Beast, one of the people in his crew, every freaking time. Yeah, I told you I really hate this Uzi because I'm still sitting here like, well, this is probably confirmation bias. Like, but it's pretty hard to shake. It's pretty hard to shake. Oh man, it's all over there. It gets me thinking about some of these. You know what? I think part of it may just be people these days. Like, okay, so let me give you an example of I don't know. I'm gonna kind of have to intuition this, okay? I don't know if I can explain the kind of the thing that I'm seeing and feeling lately in culture, like logically, okay? But maybe if I give you a couple of examples here and everything, I can kind of, you know, explain to you. So I saw this TikTok trend yesterday that was basically like what is your number? Like how much would they have to pay you in order for you to be okay with somebody sleeping with your spouse? Basically, was the question. And there was this couple, and they were talking, like the wife asked the husband, you know, what his number was. And he was like, oh, maybe a couple million. I think that I would need more than 1 million, but like, you know, 3 or 4 million, I think could maybe work. And then, you know, you'd just have to call me when it's all done and everything. And the wife is going like, oh man. And the guy is getting nervous. Like, oh, did I said the wrong thing. I was supposed to say infinity or something like that. Or it really needed to be like $1 billion. She's going to be mad at me. But no, her number was way lower than that. And he was like, wait, what was your number? And she said that her number was, you just have to pay off my student loans, which was like a little less than 100,000 or something like that. Like, what? That to me seems like such an insane answer. Like, to me, anything other than infinity is an insane answer. Like, I am not so desperate for cash that I would be really willing to do anything that would harm my integrity or my opinion of myself whatsoever, right? Like I don't have to prostitute myself for money. I'm totally confident in my opinion to make as much money as I need to be happy. And I don't have to do any kind of... It's the same answer for me when they talk about, like, would you punch a child? Like, these sorts of things. Like, no, because I don't need to do that to make $1 million, right? But some people, they especially you got the student loan debt, they're hurting. And they do almost anything, you know? It just feels to me like the standards of people in the society has changed in a way that I find really disturbing. And so there are people that, or a large portion of the population that, you know, they become famous and some kid messages them and the conversation goes in an inappropriate direction. All they're thinking is, oh yeah, I'm gonna get some, or you know, this is hot, or whatever the deal is, and they just do all sorts of stupid stuff. To me, somebody messages me like anything sexual on like zero interest, we won't talk to you. I'm and it's just so bizarre to me that that's not how everybody thinks about it. But man, and if you think Mr. Beast is an exception, all I'm gonna say is that there's a lot of time left in that kid's career. Well, it wasn't Mr. Beast, it was one of the people in his crew. But man. Yeah. The one that kind of actually no, I'm gonna say it upsets me. This one upsets me, and the reason that it upsets me is that when it happened, we were all like, you know, like Mr. Beast is watched by kids. I'm a little concerned about these are the people that I'm gonna be exposing my kids to through YouTube, and everybody was just like, no, that's transphobic. And then sure enough, he's talking to an underage kid. Like, come on. So these people, like, quite frankly, I would call it the conspiracy theorist crowd, but I was concerned too, honestly, when that all happened. They basically gaslit us all into it's totally okay, and it wasn't. It makes me mad. Yeah, and I know why the odds for that guy skyrocket. Well, I tell you what, we did get new lows, but like it's still pretty, still kind of meh. Looks like there is 15 ticks though. They possibly could have made. I don't know. Like the thing is that we've got a long ways to go before like overnight lows, right? Oh yeah. Oh man. But to my point, I'm kind of wondering if the reason some of these things are happening is because the society's standard has gotten so low. Like, I was taught growing up that having any kind of sexual conversations through text or any of that is just completely inappropriate. Taking nude pictures of yourself, completely you never do it under any circumstances, not even to like send to your spouse. That's my view of it. But I think that I'm like in a vast majority. Like I think that like maybe 1 to 5% of the population agrees with me on that. I think that 95% of people would send or receive naked pictures from their spouse, for instance, right? And you can thank the tease for that. Wait, the tease for that? Why? You're getting closer to child consent. Well, I sure hope that never happens. Oh my gosh, that's so disturbing to me. Is it feminism? Well, there is a strain of feminism that is kind of like sleep around and all of that, and that's empowering, but it really hasn't been. Really hasn't been. It is just so weird because I could see, like, when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, Okay, so like one of the things that's like really ingrained into my mind when I was a kid, when I was in 7th grade, because the change between elementary school and junior high is a pretty big shift. And I remember that, I would try and take honors everything, or that my parents put me in honors everything. And it was kind of like nerve-wracking a little bit. It was like, am I smart enough to be in these smarter classes? Because not everybody goes and takes the smarter classes. Now it's different. Not everybody takes the same classes now, right? It's a big change. But there are some classes that everybody has to take. Like, there was like the home mech kind of class. And in the home mech class, there was this group of kids that were just complete degenerates, right? They're always making jokes about sexual content and goofing off in class and not paying attention and getting detention and all of that sort of stuff, right? And these kids belonged to a larger clique of people that we called the skaters. And the skaters they wanted to skate on a skateboard, and they had the really big Flood Janko jeans. Right, that was them. My understanding is that this kind of situation in the school is maybe actually really specific to like my school or Utah, because in some parts of the country, like, just everybody wore the flood pants. Right? It was a really popular thing. Okay. But they were the skaters. And most of those kids, well, not most of them, some of them were okay, and we're just in the clique. But the ones that like really, really irritated me in particular, like, they eventually dropped out. Yeah, I don't know how you say it. GNCOs, yeah. I call them flood pants, but yeah. And so some of those were like, they dropped out of high school, right? But I disliked that experience of being in those classes with those kids so much that basically through the rest of my schooling, I always made sure that I was in the highest level classes that I could, so that I could avoid those kinds of kids. Like just straight up, And so to me, in my mind, it was like, oh, these are these degenerate people. They are constantly talking about sex, and they have low standards for everything, right? So it was totally into. I mean, it's almost a classist thing, right? Like I think about it, like, my opinion. This is like a classist opinion. I'm all of a sudden I was like, oh, I'm the high class, and these are like the poors, right? But then, like, as time went on, and I got out of high school, and I looked at people, what I started to see was almost everybody is like this. Hardly anybody has the same standard that I do. And that almost everybody is willing to sleep around if they have the opportunity to. And almost everybody is, And then when it came to social media, the same thing. Because I was on the internet from the beginning, man. I was like on AOL. I was like, in chat rooms in like 1999, 1998. Okay. So from the very beginning, MySpace, Facebook, I was one of the first people on Facebook, right? So I remember being on Facebook and thinking, oh, it will be a really cool thing if Facebook kind of becomes more like Twitter, and you can post things on Twitter and then all your friends can see it, and we can use that to like promote things or do work and talk about different things. And I would post on Facebook twice a day, religiously. Had interesting conversations in my comments and everything. But, there was like standards. You don't send people nude pictures through Facebook Messenger or whatever the deal is, right? And I thought that this was like the accepted standard and etiquette. And then 2016 came along. social media exploded. All of a sudden, everybody had social media, and everybody was talking about politics on social media. And it was like a complete disaster because, number one, most people just couldn't handle the politics. They couldn't differentiate between like reality and the reality that they were being presented through their own little bubble on social media, right? And then at the same time, there was a large enough contingent of people doing the degenerate things on the platform that like all of the kids thought it was okay. And so then it was like the generations after mine. I'm not even talking like millennial, Gen X or Gen Z, whatever. Like way more granular than that, right? Like every 2 years worth of kids, right? It's like the people after that, sexting, totally okay. Sexting, totally okay. And it's like just really bothers me, like the way that I see it progress, because I can see why it's important to have those standards. Like, okay, like, yeah, it is cool. Well, I mean, it is not cool. It is tempting. It is tempting. It is really enticing to get nude photos from women, and like that girl is the one that's sending you the nude photo. Sure it is. I'm sure that feels great, but it opens up the door for all sorts of other things and gives very, very bad people cover to do very awful things. And it just really, like, it kind of makes me sad the way that it's gone and the place that we're at. You were on the internet when Al Gore created not quite that far back. I did not see Usenet. Okay, when I first got on the internet and people talk about the old days on the internet, they talked about Usenet. I was not part of the Usenet generation, but I was on AOL, and like some of my first experiences were like playing StarCraft on BattleNet, so like 1998 era. Yeah, Jenkos. There, you're right. That's the way that they would say it. Jenkos. COVID, everyone's locked up. OnlyFans becomes mainstream and known, including to children, and became normal. So the kids who were in that time got some jumps. And yes, no, Paul, you're totally right. There has been a push, like straight up, not a push. Like I don't think that this is like this is one of those things. At least it's not like that. There's not these sorts of things that go on, but I don't think that there was like some sort of plot by the elites to normalize the sexualized content and normalize OnlyFans and all of that. But I think that what happened was the creators kind of figured out that children are one of, if not the largest audience on the internet. And not only are they a large audience, but they are the easiest to grab their attention. And so the OnlyFans models 100% were making content that would appeal to children. And not so that the children would go and watch their OnlyFans content, but so that they would become popular enough to grab the people that would go and subscribe to their OnlyFans content. Yeah. It totally happened. It's so, like, you go and look at some of these e-girls and their content, and so like there's this one character that's super popular. I don't know what the game is from, but it's like a girl, and she's like a jester type character, but she's kind of creepy. And for some reason, children, and like particularly autistic children, love this franchise or whatever. And then the OnlyFans girls use that to pull in the audience. Yeah. and then yeah, that has kind of like normalized certain behaviors to the younger kids. So now when they do grow up, I think that it's gonna be really bad. And I think that these problems are probably only gonna get worse. Of course, part of it with OnlyFans though was Patreon being stupid, so you know. Yep. While OnlyFans still had a lot of content on it, they tried to make it easy to hide it by making it into cooking and such too. Remember, yeah, because on TikTok basically started banning you if you had an OnlyFans link in your profile. So they kind of had to make it like, you have to go to my Instagram and then you can get to the OnlyFans from Instagram. And, you know, you had to just kind of figure that out. Right? And then on TikTok, they pretend like they're just a normal creator. That has shifted because I remember there was a time where I would get a lot of content like that on TikTok. Like, you know, girls would create a new account and like super spam and you know, try and get as many of those videos through as they could before TikTok banned them. And then there were constantly, and I would get a lot of videos like that, but I don't get videos like that anymore at all. So I don't know if that means that like it became ineffective and those people stopped doing it, or if TikTok just became good enough, or that I'm just not in that test group anymore or something. I don't know. There are multiple problems that will get worse. One I don't bring up, but feel may be true. Day rate going up since so many are emotionally unstable in many ways. Maybe. With the way that things are going, and a lot of people having more and more difficulty getting into relationships, and in particular a very large contingent of young men feeling very lonely and like it's impossible to get a girlfriend, sort of a thing. What you should expect to see and what will typically happen across the society is that violence against women will increase. Yes, it's true. Kids these days don't like the word no anymore, with many never hearing it. I know that kind of gets into too that like we've kind of like destroyed their dopamine, and I don't know what you really get when you give a kid so much dopamine in like from toddlers, and then they're 20 years old. How that works? We're not quite there. Another 5 years, and then I think we'll know what those kids are like. Because there's this sort of thing that like you know, boys are less ambitious these days, for instance, right? And I kind of wonder, okay, but is that to a degree the economic opportunities that are available to them? You know, I saw this thing yesterday because there's a lot of arguments about immigration. Immigration is and the studies that I'm seeing are like immigration is entirely positive, that more people coming into the country generate more economic activity and they create more jobs. And so they're saying that even this idea that like a lot of immigration or illegal immigration represses wages, they were saying, no, that's not the case because the immigrants create enough jobs to offset that. But then you look at the society and it's like, come on, man, like people don't make what they did before. And a lot of people are not having kids, not because they don't want to have kids, but because it's just not practical. Like they do not feel economically secure enough to want to have kids. And we've been saying, you know, across the developing world, that as we become more developed, that fertility rates go down and everything. But I'm like, is it really like more developed means less fertile? Or is it just our society that the economic opportunities have become worse? Because what should happen in like populations and like kind of like the theory around this sort of a thing is that like as boomers retire, then there's less workers. Those workers should make more. And then their standard of living will go up, and then they'll be more willing to have more children. And that like not having children is kind of like this correcting mechanism, right? We have too many people. And then the government say, oh, I don't like that, we keep importing them. But like there's this argument like both ways, and it seems kind of fuzzy to me now. Like if it's actually true or not. Well, anyways, while I've been talking about this, I think I did kind of miss a good opportunity because, you know, like I was like, oh, okay, they're gonna break new lows at like, what was it, 29.5 or whatever, but they were kind of nonchalant about it, so it didn't really didn't trigger me like I should take a trade. But like, look, it's just been like slow burn down now. Just been slow and steady. Not that much of a change in cumulative delta either, which I think is still, I don't think that it qualifies me. Well, based on the order flow that the order flow is not what I like to see for a trade. The order flow is not what I like to see for a trade. But I think this is a situation where I maybe possibly would have taken a trade, expecting the order flow to come through, and then made money even though it didn't. So I am kind of sitting here thinking, like, should I have taken a trade on that? What I'm looking at it right now, though, I'm kind of thinking, well, let's see here. What was the low? The last like major low that I'd be looking for is 19.5. Like that's still a pretty good ways away. Can we actually get that far? I don't know. But I'm seeing a lot more trade at 25 here, so that's kind of a pause area. So now is probably not a good time for me to like get into a big position. I'm a little bit, I don't like to talk about it a lot because when I go on vacation, I kind of like it to be on a surprise. I am going to be gone next week, and I'm also kind of like, I don't like to take trades just before vacation, because if you take a big trade and then it's like a loser, and then you're just sour the whole vacation, right? But I did say I would be leaning short, even though I think that the flows should be somewhat varied. But I guess I'm not necessarily seeing that, am I? But this decline from here is about almost 10K. I guess that means it is summer action. It is summer action. Okay, well, this is like a good time for a break. I actually have some muffins that I was going to eat that I didn't get to. So I'm going to do that. We'll keep an eye on this. There's 5K, there's 5K. Like, it's still actually pushing. Oh, wow. The Universal Music crashes 30% on streaming revenue woes? Is the music industry finally getting its comeuppance? This is not something that was on my radar or that I was constantly thinking about, but now that that story has come out and everything, I'm thinking like few things could make me happier. They've been getting that since now. I don't feel like that's true. Like, okay, let me back up. Let me try and like bring you into like where I'm coming from. Okay. 2008-ish, 2007-ish. No. Before that, 2003, I get my wisdom teeth taken out. And after getting my wisdom teeth taken out, I sit and I put in a CD that my parents got for Christmas, not knowing anything about what my music tastes were or anything like that. I was listening to Linkin Park mostly at the time, but it had an Ultra Trance 1 CD. It's the first trance compilation that Ultra Records had made. So I popped that in the headphones, you know, like when I got home from the wisdom teeth getting out, and like, you know, pass out essentially and listen to that CD like passed out. Okay. So probably, I think most people when they get into electronic dance music, there's probably like some sort of drugs involved. Yeah, it was after getting my wisdom teeth taken out, right? So like I'm super into that. I didn't like pay too much attention to it until later. I found the DJ software and I was like, oh, that's so cool. Oh, but really for it to work, you kind of need dance music. Oh, but I have that CD. And then that's what got me into dance music. So then by around the 2006, 2007-ish time period, it was like, oh, I really love DJing. And I was just doing it on my own in my bedroom. And then I find out that, oh, people actually like go to events and pay you to do this and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do that. And I'm going to, in order to do that, you have to like make music and stuff like that. So I put a good amount of effort into making tracks and putting them out and everything like that. And I felt like that anytime I did something and I started to have a little bit of success with it, that like it would change on you. It would change on you. And like, so it was super hard to just like ever really build up an audience. Kind of like they didn't want you to build up an audience, right? It's like they want you to generate content for them, but they don't actually want you to make a ton of money from it because they want more of that money for themselves, right? And then, you know, they just kind of kept squeezing you. It's like, well, Spotify came out. I never really tried the Spotify thing because I felt like that what they were giving you on Spotify was like a pittance. It was like ridiculous that that's what, you know, like your income is going to be as an artist. That's literally like, unless you go super viral, there's no way that you're ever going to make enough money to keep doing it, right? So I honestly, I kind of gave up. I did a lot of that stuff, and then when I kind of switched over to trading in around 2016, you know, I just kind of left that whole world behind because I was sick of going to events all the time. I was sick of, you know, trying to promote my songs. Like, shouldn't the label, like, isn't the whole point of the label being that they're good at promoting things and they do that part for you and you make the music? But then it wasn't like that. They only wanted people that were already been super successful promoting themselves. So really all they were, the labels weren't really providing anything for you. They were just skimming off the top for no reason. So I've been super not happy with the music industry, or, you know, bitter about the music industry for a really, really long time. So to hear that Universal Music isn't making enough money from streaming revenue and as their stock is crashing 30%, I'm real happy with. That's like maybe they're finally figuring it out that people aren't happy with the way that you're treating them and artists. That you're not providing value to the ecosystem. You're dominating the ecosystem and taking all of the profits without actually giving anything back to anybody else. And they're sick of it, and people aren't listening as much anymore because of it. I hope so. So that's where I'm coming from. That's what I mean by, are they finally getting their comeuppance? I mean, there's been that thing, like, you're right, since Napster. I mean, people have been kind of upset since Napster, but it hasn't been enough to, like, change the structure of the industry. But maybe it's coming. Okay, so one of the things I'm noticing is that the Japanese yen was on a pretty steady decline, and that it's matching up with the treasuries really closely here. So, that may be why it seems like that it's in, that I'm not quite seeing the flows that I would expect. Like this pullback, man, we were just looking at, it just keeps going down and down and down and down. We're already like 6 ticks up. Like that's a pretty significant shift. That's already 10 ticks or more in the micros. Really fast. So that's not necessarily the most conducive environment for us, because that means you can get flows that will come across and just dice you up. They're going to be so fast that you're not really going to realize what's going on, and you're not necessarily going to see it in the order flow, because changes in price are not correlating with order flow super well. So we are getting action. We are getting movement. It does look like there's good trading, but for the way that I like to trade, it's not optimal. I think that AUD JPY looks right for a bounce. Yeah, well, it looks like the Japanese yen is bouncing a little bit at least. This is kind of a curious thing. So like this shift in GDP is kind of like I think a real gut check for some people, because the Japanese yen was definitely seeing like an unwind of that carry trade. But is this going to be enough to stop that? Well, at the very least, it's hurt the JPY in the short term, but I don't know what the long-term effects of this are going to be. It might be something that just kind of blows over. I mean, I'm kind of wondering here still if like some of the information that we're getting in the GDP is, these numbers that are going to get revised and everything, and that, like when we get by the time we're done with the revisions in GDP, that it's going to be back at 2%. Because you see that 2.8 and it's like, can we really cut interest rates right now? But that might not actually be the reality. We'll read about that report here in a second. I'm going to finish eating this muffin now. So here's an interesting one that I didn't know. Here's from one of these subreddits that's always pushing leftist garbage, but it says, "Hey, you might be interested in this, even though you don't belong to that subreddit." It's called In the News. I don't know if that's like some, I don't know. I think it's just a subreddit, but it seems to be more left-leaning than the other news subreddits. Trump now claims Kamala Harris is totally against the Jewish people, which would come as news to her Jewish husband. Oh, so Kamala Harris's husband is Jewish, is he? That's interesting to me. I did not know that. You know what's going on there, though, is they're both kind of chat GPTing it. They're both kind of GPTing it on you and trying to fool you. Like, so Kamala Harris was totally not very supportive. So I said totally not very. That's kind of an oxymoron. I would say she was not very supportive to Israel. She seems to be more supportive of Hamas and criticizing Israel more. She was not there for Netanyahu's speech. So she's definitely anti-Netanyahu, at the very least, right? And I think that if you're like pro-Israel, that Kamala Harris is not showing the support for Israel that you would like. Does that mean she is totally against the Jewish people? Not necessarily, because probably she would say that she is supportive of the Jewish people and just not the current political regime that's in power in Israel, because they're conservative, essentially, right? Right? But then they're coming in and they're saying, well, because Kamala Harris's husband is Jewish, that must mean that she's absolutely 100% pro-Israel. Well, no, because I really think that if, like, you are pro-Israel and that's, like, the most important issue to you, that you can't vote for Kamala Harris. But in terms of, like, is that going to convince people and how people are going to vote and everything, that her husband is Jewish is kind of notable and kind of helps her, I think. Helps her blunt that criticism. Interesting. Looks like 28 is the point of control now, by the way. So far, it looks like they haven't been able to cross the kind of like the chasm back up into the 31 area. Like, if you're going to really get like a complete retracement of that, there's going to be this, you see this kind of dip in the profile, right? So basically, they built a lot of stuff here, kind of moved down, built here and did this, and now back to here, and they're not able to they haven't been able to cross this chasm yet. Essentially, the liquidity hole is here, and so they snapped back to that, and there's not enough buying to push it all the way back through the gap yet. Okay, I'm going to read this zero hedge story. Quarter 2 GDP unexpectedly soars to 2.8%, crushing estimates as core PCE prints hot. After yesterday's panicked op-ed by Idiot Bill Recession is here, so cut rates before Trump is elected Dudley, expectations were for a quarter 2 GDP print this morning as zero, if not outright negative, to greenlight a July rate cut. Of course, that op-ed is all that was needed for Kamala's Bureau of Economic Analysis to release a blowout print, because we now have just 100 days to establish Kamalanomics as the next sliced bread. And that is precisely what happened moments ago when the first estimate of quarter 2 GDP came in at a whopping 2.8%, double the final quarter 1 GDP print of 1.4%, which was already the lowest print since the technical recession in quarter 2 of 2022. And here's the chart. It's a good print. And the term Kamalanomics, that kind of rolls off the tongue a little bit too well. I kind of feel like I'm sitting here like, why didn't I think of that? Why didn't I think of that word, Kamalanomics? It also came in more than 2 sigma higher than the consensus estimate of 2%. In fact, there was just one estimate that was higher at 3%. Oh, somebody said 3%. That's interesting. That's interesting. Oh, yeah, and there's the distribution. How often does this happen? This is so bizarre where numbers come in well past what all of the research analysts are saying. And how did they continue to be so wrong? I mean, like, analysts are wrong a lot, but they've been particularly off lately. Past, like, let's say, since 2021. Okay. Hotter than expected quarter one print leaves the first half of GDP at roughly 2%, a step down from the 3.1% pace of 2023. Well, that's good. 2% is what we'd like to see, right? The increase in real GDP primarily reflected an upturn in inventory investment, non-residential fixed investment, and an acceleration in consumer spending. These movements were partly offset by a downturn in housing investment. Now I'm going to skip all of the super gritty details because I don't feel like that when I'm reading those out to you that they really stick. So you can go back and read those if you really want to see the details, like the crosstabs. This UBS concludes this is a very good print in detail and completely crushes the recession is nigh narrative set yesterday by Bill Dudley. Well, I don't think it was really set yesterday by Bill Dudley, but like the narrative that's been going on for the last, like, let's say 2 months that like we are seeing significant slowdown in the economy. This, which sparked an epic unwind in the yen carry trade and hammered virtually all other assets as a result. All right. This kind of like recession is nigh is narrative was causing the yen trade to unwind. So, and that's probably why you've seen the yen come down so hard and then the treasury is following them. Little bit of a divergence here between the yen and the treasuries now. Like, they both bounced, but the treasury bounced a lot more than the yen did. Kamalanomics, yeah. Well, I don't know. Do you think that the economy doing well by November will increase Kamala's chances of winning the presidency? Because I kind of think that it's a minor factor. I think that the most important factor is going to be, 1, voter turnout efforts, and 2, swing state moderates. I have a very, very hard time seeing swing state moderates, particularly in the Rust Belt, voting for Kamala Harris. So now I'm reading a thread about polls. So let me tell you something about polls. So like we are getting to the point now where polls might be able to show some degree of how much things switching to Kamala Harris changes the election. But in general, I've found that it takes people about 10 days to find an equilibrium. Like if you are establishing a new habit, changing your diet, going to bed at a different time, quitting smoking, all of those sorts of things. It usually takes 10 days at least to really solidify that habit. So I say that, you know, like you really want to understand the impact of an event in polling, that you want to wait 10 days for the equilibrium to form. And then you're gonna need like a few days after that for them to conduct the polling, right? So I don't, but if we are like getting the first glimpses of it. And what one of the problems also is that you are going to see a bump. Like whenever, so like when the party does its convention, you usually will see that candidate have a bump in favorability, for instance. Things switching over to Kamala Harris, probably you're going to see a bump in her numbers and the Democrats' chances, and then that will kind of subside. But people are trying to really set the narrative. It's kind of funny. They're all like, "Oh, Republicans are panicking and everything." And it's like, the Democrat Party like literally just completely flipped its lid and panicked and replaced its nominee, just like that. And you're trying to say that the Republicans are the ones that are panicking? Nah. Like, I think if you're a Republican, that things are looking pretty good for you, and you should feel pretty confident, and you don't really necessarily need to say anything at the moment. Like, let the Democrats try their best. I think everybody kind of sees that it's all like just a really big propaganda effort on social media to like make a bunch of noise, right? Let things settle a little bit, and then you push back. And right now they're kind of like the Republicans are kind of like training their side, like they're doing the research, like digging into Kamala Harris's past and everything. There's a lot of dirt there, man. Yeah, she got 0 votes. Remember that she basically dropped out before the first contest even occurred. So like she got like 800 votes period. Like just like not like delegates or anything like that, but just like total people that have ever voted for her for president ever. 800 people, right? She never was really defined to the American public. That's why, like, her as vice president, it's extremely unusual to see a vice president, like, do so poorly. But I think it really was, oh my gosh, this pisses me off. So Joe Biden appointed Kamala Harris as, like, the border czar to deal with the border situation. She like visited the border once and didn't do jack squat. Didn't do a single thing. And that was when her favorability ratings started to decline. Okay. Like I was really like the American public didn't like that she didn't do anything on the border. Now, yesterday, they're all trying to tell us that she was not border czar. Like Axios is saying, oh, you know, we did previously report that she was the border czar, but that reporting was in error. She did not actually get that title. Bullshit. I can show you things in Congress where they basically, where she was appointed to be that, and it was like confirmed by Congress. Okay, so like, she was put in charge of the border and she didn't do anything. And that's what hurt her, right? Because she dropped out so early and was not a major contender because she did so, Tulsi Gabbard just completely savaged her in the debates, basically. She has not really been very well defined by the American people, and there is some real dirt there. The scandal, when she was the Attorney General in California, or not the Attorney General, she was just lead prosecutor in San Francisco, wasn't she? Anyways, I digress. Some pretty bad scandals. Yeah, I don't think she'll survive. Is there a House of Cards episode where somebody becomes president without ever getting any votes? So what was it that I saw last night? Last night, the Democrat National Convention basically said, you guys have until Thursday. If there's anybody else that is going to declare for president, and they need to get like 50 delegates or something like that. And then if there is somebody, then we'll kind of push things back. And if there isn't, if we don't get somebody with 50 delegates before Thursday, I think it was the deadline, then they'll go forward with like their abbreviated roll call where they basically confirm the nominee before the convention so that they don't have to deal with any convention drama on TV, because this happened in like what, 1967 was it? After LBJ dropped out, it was basically like a brokered convention of sorts, and it absolutely devastated the Democrat Party, essentially, because like the whole nation basically watched this shit show. So they're trying to avoid that. They're trying to avoid that. RFK, I don't think so. I don't think RFK. So RFK, I don't think has any actual delegates, but then like people that have pledged themselves, that have been released and have pledged themselves to him, 50, I doubt it. I really doubt it. I mean, I feel like what I'm gonna say is a little bit mean, but RFK is basically pushed to try and make the Democrat Party look bad, but he was never really a serious candidate with a serious chance of winning or anything like that. He was just like the one guy that was there doing something. That was dumb enough to run against Biden, sort of a thing, right? So the chances of him winning the nomination are nil. Okay, but somebody else could emerge. Like who could we have? Maybe some of the people that Kamala is looking at for vice president, like Ben Shapiro. I don't know if he would have to be recruited, or maybe Michelle Obama. Okay, like what if all of a sudden Michelle Obama announced like what it could happen? It would have to happen like right now. Okay, but it's possible. Michelle Obama announces that she is seeking to be president. I think she could pull 50 delegates. Yeah, Uzi laughs at Ben Shapiro. Like, I don't think that he would do that or get 50 delegates, but he's like the front runner for that sort of a thing. So it's kind of, that's why I'm pulling that out. Oh, it's not, I don't know what his, did I say Ben Shapiro? Yeah, not Ben Shapiro, but the guy's last name is Shapiro. Josh Shapiro. Yeah, you're right. Josh Shapiro. Yes. Okay, what about the Republican lawsuit over the money going to Kamala? I'm not sure, to be honest with you. It seems to me that, you know, can the money go to your vice president candidate? Seems reasonable, but I've seen enough to make me question that, and I don't know enough about the election laws to really know if that's the case. But I also think that the Republican lawsuit is over a little bit more than that. So I think that you are going to get some sort of an interesting result out of that Republican lawsuit. And then on top of that, people are making a pretty compelling argument that Democrats are laundering money through Act Blue. So, I think that there could be some interesting things come from that. The smurfing. Well, did you see what was actually going? Like, oh man, because basically what happens is you sign up on Act Blue and then like you donate some money, right? And then they would go and the records are all public. So these people were looking through the records and they'd say, hey, this person, they made like hundreds of these tiny little transactions donating. Why would you do that? So then they went and they found the person, and the person is like, oh, I didn't do that. That's not me. So where's the money coming from then? So there straight up is some money laundering going on through Act Blue, and I guess we don't know what the extent of it is. Yeah, it is a wild story. It is kind of one of those things that's like, this should be like a national outrage. Like, this should be a significant story, and it's like, I'm really only seeing it on social media fringes so far. Especially since they have like real evidence and real investigation. But this goes back to this thing again that's like gurus and influencers. I don't think, you know, we use this word like, do you want to be an influencer, right? And I think that all of us take it for granted, like what that means. And what I'm realizing now is that there's a contingent of people that they use that term in a derogatory manner. Like they're an influencer. They're not a real expert because they're unauthorized experts, right? And so here you have a story that's being broken by unauthorized experts. And so the mainstream media is not going to give it credence, even though it's a big story, I think. If she wins, I'm buying stock in knee pads and coconut trees. I think that one went over my head. Coconut trees. What was the... Okay, so that has to do with her thing that's like, you didn't just fall out of the coconut tree or something like that, right? What has been is not burdened by what has been, or what will be is not burdened by what has been, or something like that. Oh my gosh, she said so many dumb things. It really is. So this is like a really... I'm interested to watch. This is something I'm kind of watching here with Kamala, right? Is that one of the complaints from the staffers that left, like she has high turnover, is they said that like she demands a lot of her staff, but then she won't like do the prep. She won't do the reading and the stuff that she's supposed to do. And you're kind of left wondering like, well, why am I putting in all of this work and effort for her? I'm not really getting anything out of it. And she's, you know, it's not worth it because like I do all this work, she rides me really hard, and then she doesn't even use the work, like she didn't even read it, right? And so like there's this larger overall like feeling around Kamala Harris that like she presents herself as, I'm an attorney and I'm super smart and super serious candidate and everything, but in reality she's actually a lightweight. Like when you look at her speeches, the things that she says, her trying to do stuff on the fly, her debating in the debates, and what her staffers say, there's significant evidence that she's actually an intellectual lightweight. So how will that play out? Will we see that in the election or not? Because there's two things, which is like, maybe it's not true. Maybe she actually is really smart. But then there's also like, what impression will voters get though? Because the impression that voters get might not actually be the reality. Maybe voters see her as really smart. Maybe people don't. But like, so that's going to be something do we see develop that I'm kind of watching. Because I tell you what, she sure has said a lot of weird things. Writes a lot of weird things that like, to her probably sound smart, but to anybody else, they're kind of like, this is dumb. And that this is like meaningless words. It sounds smart. Like ChatGPT might think it sounds smart, but it's not. It means nothing. Okay, they did cross the gap. They're back to 03. And actually, strong volume in the 10-year on this way back. 20,000. Well, I'm not necessarily super in sync with the market. I'm not necessarily super paying attention either. But I don't think that there's any way that I would have very well predicted any of these moves. I mean, down in here, I would probably still be looking to sell it again. And even if I took like a, you know, I was going to revert a little bit sort of a trade, I don't think that I would have thought it would come all the way back. I don't know if they can really cross this gap back up to like 18, but gosh, like 03 is really impressive. Really impressive. Sometimes I feel like, okay, I just finished a thought. I need to be like immediately going into the other thought. But you know, like here's a good time to just kind of absorb things a little bit, yeah? Oh, you know what we should do though? We should go and check some stocks here a little bit, yeah? Been the first 30 minutes, so it should be give us a good idea of where some stocks are at. CrowdStrike. So CrowdStrike, kind of, so there was like, this was the big down day, and then they kind of went a little bit sideways, and then Wednesday they took a little hit, but it was really kind of like to the lows of the week. And then overnight break lower, recover, and now breaking lower again. So CrowdStrike, it looks like they're taking another pretty major hit. Let's look up Universal Media Group. Is that it? No, that's not it. Universal Corporation, Universal Music. Oh.
Block by.
UMG. UMG. Oh, it's an over-the-counter, I guess. It is this one. Okay. So I don't know if we really get to know what's going on there. Now let's come down through here. Rare elements. 5% isn't a big deal, but 28 might be. Let's see. Okay. Oh, we're gonna be over here. Okay. Oh, so we weren't looking at UMG on a daily chart. Okay, this is still kind of weird. MicroStrategy down 8% today. Ouch. So crypto taking a hit. Nvidia down 6%. Pretty much all the growth names are getting hit today. Croc's down 4%. Look at that one. CROX. Ouch. That's giving up a really good rally. Yeah, got a possibility of a head and shoulders pattern informant in them, in fact. Super micro down. Oh, wow. RTX Corporation is up 8%. How is that? Those stocks don't move that much, do they? What the fuck? What the fuck? Well, it was an earnings day. Still. That's wild. That is a wild beat. What's going on there? The military defense companies moving 5% is unusual. Okay, those stocks actually don't move that much. As big as of a deal as people make the military industrial complex, they don't end up being super great stocks because they only get a certain percentage of GDP, and it's just kind of like steady growth, and it's not big enough for a lot of investors. So they are not like high beta stocks as I understand it. Let me double check that. Yahoo. I gotta do finance. Yeah. Statistics. Beta. Yeah, their beta is 0.55. A stock with a beta of that means that like if the S&P 500 moves 1%, they move 0.5%. Okay. And volatility has been low too, by the way. So for RTX to move 5% today, or actually up 8% today, is big deal. That's massive. Okay. Oh, New York Community Bank Corp down 11%. Ouch. Yeah, they had earnings today. Okay. But it is just like a retracement of like last month's stuff, so I'm not going to say that that's like a complete disaster, but it's still pretty ugly. I guess I'm trying to look at, do we need to be like concerned about commercial real estate, for instance? No, probably looks like it's just that one stock, right? AMD down 4%. Okay, so I am seeing like some of the utilities and like dogs of the Dow and so forth up today, which does suggest risk off rotation. So despite the decline because the GDP is high, you are still seeing movement into like utilities and stuff. But interestingly, IBM is up 4% today. Wowzer. I think it was something like 40% of the S&P like had earnings yesterday. So yeah, a lot of these are going to be like, yeah, okay. Pretty good jump there in IBM. Not the high of the year, but in fact, the only one in my dogs of the Dow is Dow in itself. That's funny. What about evil companies? Okay, well, the Russell 2000 is up today, so we are still seeing that rotation to small caps as well. Yeah, see, there you go. The defensives. Well, Walmart is down, but the other defensives are all up by 1%. Comcast up 3%. Wendy's up 3%. Warner Brothers Discovery down 5%. There's a lot of big moves happening today, guys. I'm surprised. Like, what is the overall, the S&P 500 right now? Down 0.88%. Definitely some money moving around today. Very interesting. Well, so with all of that, what do we think the S&P 500 is going to do today? Do you think that we'll have another down day? I think that we will get some more selling today, but I think that this might be one of those days where whatever damage is done is probably mostly recovered. I don't think that you'll get another like downtrend day like we did yesterday, for instance. But we'll see. And I haven't been watching Twitter as much these days, but I'm not seeing a whole lot of commentary over there. CME has probability 0 on no cuts in the Treasury funds rate at either the July or September meetings. Really? Is that true? Well, so far still think. Yeah, let's do it from the Fed Watch tool. So they 93% odds that we will have no change in July. And 85%. Okay, I think that I must be misunderstanding what this guy is saying, because market is saying 85% chance that they cut it. Nobody's saying that they're going to raise it. So. And then 61% chance that they cut it again in November. And then 57.6% chance that they cut it again in December for 3 cuts. And those probabilities might be reasonable, although we'll see. If I come in to compare, I would think that that chance would be less today than it was yesterday. But that's not what this says. Now, the chances has increased. Let's go back to September. Okay. Interesting. So, like, the chances of them cutting in, like, September have gone down a little bit, but the chances of them cutting in December have gone up a little bit. Well, that's curious. But that might just be reflecting these big moves that we're seeing in the yield curve lately, and not necessarily indicative of any kind of actual real probability, right? Oh yeah, I saw this. There's somebody was browsing through the Twitter API and they found a list of users that are like protected users. And they're all like right-wing accounts. And I'm kind of like, It's probably like a list of accounts that people have like tried to take down, and then Twitter said like, oh, actually we think that they're okay. And they just get reported so often that they put them in that list so that like the auto reporting bots don't take them down. It's probably what that is, but Let's see here. This does not look like an API response. What was the request? What is this path? A Unix time actual OKTA API docs, by the way. Just using OKTA for this in general is like using 4chan to add seat memory settings to your car. Does not make any sense. Everybody fell for disprovable information. Is it false then? Unless Twitter has completely rewritten every aspect of their identity and authentication system since I left, this is total BS. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely believe Space Karen protects fascists at all costs, but this ain't it. Twitter uses OKTA for corporate stuff, but none of this is that. Just to clarify, I'm not saying Twitter didn't have protected accounts. They did. They numbered around 100-ish and were basically world leaders in a few corporate accounts that could easily shift markets. They could be sanctioned, but only by a limited number of leaders in the trust and safety organization. That was done in the aftermath of the Trump suspension by a contractor working for customer service. The incident drove a lot of the work I was involved in, but all of that data, like most things, was stored in Twitter enormous key value data store, Manhattan, and served by some random bird named service that doesn't matter for this discussion. And this is not how OKTA works. Okay. So they're suggesting that it is completely fake. OKTA is an employee and customer identity solution. Oh yeah, that does not make sense at all. That does not make sense at all. Okay, so maybe it is fake news. Interesting, this guy was on Mastodon. Can I show you the interface here? It's not terrible. Interface isn't terrible for viewing one image, and I do get to see the image. Appears this has been debunked. Okay. Okay, cool. I believed it. I believed it for a bit. I don't know if I didn't doubt it. I didn't doubt it, yeah. So let's say I believed it, yeah. I got a notification about a tender offer for a ticker symbol. Uh-oh, dude. I hate that shit. I mean, it's not necessarily exclusively a bad thing. BlackRock enhanced equity dividend. What? So one of your funds, it's not even a company, a fund is doing a tender offer? That's weird. Well, how many shares are they offering relative to the float? EDJ. I don't know if that will pull up anything if I look it up. Let's see. Hence Equity Dividend Trust. Yeah, it's a small position for me even then. Okay, let's read. Here, I got a story. The BlackRock close-end funds listed below announced today the results of the quarterly measurement period as defined below under their previously announced discount management programs. Funds with a trigger event as defined below at the end of the quarterly measurement period also announced the dates of tender offers. The programs are a part of the fund's ongoing efforts to manage discounts and enhance long-term shareholder value and provide liquidity to the market for their common shareholders. There can be no assurances as to the effect that a program will have on the market for a fund's shares or the discount at which a fund's shares may trade relative to its net asset value. As previously announced, under the programs, each fund intends to offer to repurchase a portion of its outstanding common shares based on a 3-month measurement period if the fund's common shares trade at an average daily discount to net asset value of greater than 7.5% during a measurement period. The fund's first measurement period commenced April 1st, 2024 and ended June 30th, 2024. The average daily discount to NAV for each of the funds during the quarterly measurement period is summarized below. And what was it? It was BDJ. And it is negative 11.23% is the average daily discount for the measurement period. Fund's boards of trustees determined that if a trigger event occurred during the quarterly measurement period with respect to a fund, the fund would offer to repurchase a portion of its outstanding common shares by conducting a tender offer for 2.5% of its outstanding common shares at a price equal to 98% of the fund's net asset value per share as determined as of the close of a regular trading session of the New York Stock Exchange on the next day. NAV is calculated after the expiration date of the tender offer, or if the offer is extended the next day, the NAV is calculated after the day to which the offer is extended as a result of the occurrence of a trigger event during the quarterly measurement period with respect to each of the following funds. The board of each such fund has authorized the fund's tender offer with the anticipated commencement and expiration dates below. August 20th. Well, basically, July 17th, July 18th. Well, that's the commencement date, and the expirations are from the 16th to the 21st. More than 2.5% of a fund's outstanding common shares are tendered. The fund will purchase its shares from tendering shareholders on a pro rata basis at a price equal to 98% of the fund's net assets value as determined as of the close of regular trading of the NYSE on the, let's see here. Oh, okay. So I don't know what I thought here, but I think that I was thinking that this, when you said that there was a tender offer, that they were selling shares. But no, what they're saying is, this is actually super interesting, Uzi. So what they're saying is our fund is trading at below what its net asset value is. So we are going to buy shares to make up that difference. So that's actually good for you, I think. And in fact, let us go over here and find this fund in Trading View. BDJ. Yeah, not much of a change. Interesting. Interesting. If they buy my paltry 10.2 shares from me at $9.19 a share, I'll make a couple bucks in the position. Yeah. Well, what I would do is I would make sure to carefully read all of the materials that they send you, because you might not do anything, it might not matter, but you learn a lot from that stuff, right? Stocks and funds can be super complicated in that way, so. Kind of looks like that the treasuries may be settling down. I kind of wonder if what happened here was like, okay, there was like a cascade. The Japanese yen really got hammered, but then some of these guys that have been unwinding their carry trade said, well, this doesn't change my mind. I still want out of the carry trade. And so then they used that as an opportunity to buy it back up. And then the treasuries just followed it. Because it really seems to me like a pretty jarring, decline and reversal. The only way for me to be able to determine that sort of a thing would be if there's some sort of number that gets released every day that's like number of open positions in the Japanese yen carry trade, you know? AT&T is kicking butt. Dude, AT&T is doing pretty good today. Yeah. Saw that. I didn't really say a whole lot about it, but on that watch list. Pretty good today, and on a pretty good run. Oh, that's interesting. How come my little thing is not lining up correctly? Warren Buffett bought it over here. He's still down. What is this story? This headline seems suspicious to me. Am I the only one that gets tons of like TikTok content about like conspiracy theories around the assassination attempt on Donald Trump? Because like I immediately scroll on those things and it still sends that crap to me. And the things that these people are saying, well, I don't watch the TikTok videos, but I've also seen like posts on the Donald Trump subreddit that I think are kind of like largely ignored. And yeah, the whole thing is kind of weird. Okay, but they think that like there was multiple shooters and stuff like that, which I just don't get. But the story that I'm seeing here is from the Daily Beast. The FBI is not fully convinced that Trump was struck by a bullet. there is some question about whether or not it was a bullet or shrapnel that hit his ear. Okay. My average price is 16.91. That's not bad. $3 a share times 220 shares, so you've made like $600 on it. That's not bad. That's not bad. By the way, how's my, another one I should check. How's the Goldman shares doing since the earnings? They had a pretty good move up on the earnings. That was right there. They've given up a little bit of it, but it's still okay. Well, I've kind of been wondering if this decline is enough of a decline for me to get into some names that I'd kind of been previously holding back on. But kind of one of the things that I'm seeing is that some of the names that I was kind of interested in that have come back, them coming back the way that they have kind of makes me not interested in them. I don't know. Do I have a list? What would I should have a list. I need to make a better list. Let's see here. Oh. That's interesting. What should I call this? I was about to call it stalking, but .md, but then I was like, yeah, maybe having a note on my computer called stalking is probably a bad idea. Okay. So I want to add to our EEMF, and then let's come back to Koifin. Koifin. BWXT is definitely on there. As SMR. Or maybe any of the new nuclear ones. Let's just add SMR and new nuclear. This, and then Cheesecake Factory. Cake. Maybe here in this tech I should add ticker S for Sentinel Systems. Sentinel 1. Now, which is better of that? Actually, Sentinel 1 is probably the better one. Sure. Yes. Copper. FCX. Copper's not been looking too great right now, though, right? So.
Block buy.
Where's this other one over here? I think I went past them. Yeah, these guys right here. NSG. Okay, so I think that that should probably be up at the top. Right now, copper's at the bottom of the list because it's just doing so bad, even though I do think at some point we want copper. And same with restaurants are doing terrible. Security companies is one that I want to get into, but it's not a good time with the whole CrowdStrike thing, right? So I think that I probably end up getting into this new nuclear stuff first, and I don't know which of these three it ends up being. So ENSG, let's look at that. Oh, okay, well, it's still as high as it's ever been. Dog, my gosh. Costco? Costco, says Octavius. Is that not on my list? It should be on my list somewhere, right? Oh yeah, there it is right there. Consumer. Costco and Crocs should be on there too. But I think I'm less interested in those than these. So I think that would be like Cost and Crocs right here. And how are they doing today lately, by the way? Well, they're down a little bit today. They're down 3% on the month. Up 51% on the year. That's interesting that this one right here continues to actually be at the top of my list when I think about it, because I don't really think about it a whole lot. But like, I don't know. You tell me if this kind of logic makes sense. Boomers have a lot of money, and that money that they have is going to get redistributed throughout the economy. But it's not a guarantee that it's going to be inherited by their children. And so I want to be invested in companies that are making money from aging boomers. And that is, to me, the biggest, like, macro, like, theme type a thing that the market's going to be seeing over the next 10 to 20 years. I think, like, for instance, cybersecurity is going to be a big deal. Maybe the huge decline that we're seeing right now in CrowdStrike ends up being a good thing for investors in the long run. But, I don't think it's... and the whole thing with AI... well, it's had its run. I kind of think that AI is getting ahead of itself. But I don't think that it's as big of a force as aging boomers. Basically, the largest generation of people retiring ever. Like, when millennials get to that age, there's more millennials than there are boomers right now. But there won't be as many millennials when they retire as there are boomers right now retiring. So it's going to be a huge transfer of wealth. And I think that a lot of it is going to go to corporations. So, yeah. By the way, where are we at? 02? Let's save this. I should be putting more money into stocks right now, so I'll do a little bit more of that. I said something in Discord on the interest rates channel about, you know, how far we fell down and then bounced back up, and somebody said, oh, it's just Smitty unloading some size. That was funny, dude. Wait, what? At no point did I say I was going to donate $45 million a month to Donald Trump. That was fiction. Didn't he tweet that? Are you lying to me? Wait. Didn't he tweet that he was donating that amount monthly? And then this guy says, I think this is some sort of Mandela effect because I also thought the same, and now I can't find anything to suggest that he did. He edited the tweet. And then he edited it too. So Elon is just straight up lying to us then, huh? Maybe he is playing with language that he didn't say he was going to donate $45 million a month to Donald Trump, but that he was going to donate $45 million a month to PACs. I think it would be weird to meet Elon Musk and talk to him. I don't know what I would say to him. What would you talk? If Elon Musk was in the room with you now, what would you talk about? Not sure. I'm not sure. Thought you would talk about rockets in space? Elon, are you trying to become Adeptus Mechanicus? That's what this is really about, isn't it? You want to start a colony on Mars, move over there, become supreme leader of Mars, and then slowly replace your body with machine parts. I know what's going on. I've read, well, actually I haven't. I don't really know a whole lot about 40K, but I know enough about Warhammer 40K to know that you're trying to become Adeptus Mechanicus, aren't you? Mm-hmm. And then Elon would be like, you got me. You want to join me? And then I'd be, yes, the flesh is weak. Yeah. Okay, and then what would we talk about? Maybe Elon Musk would just go all autist on me there and just dive into his hyper interests, and then all I'd have to do is listen. That'd be great. I think he would be an interesting person to listen to. Now, Jeffrey is the billionaire. I think that if there's a billionaire that I would want to meet right now, it'd be Jeffrey Bezos. So if I met Jeffrey Bezos, what would I ask Jeffrey Bezos? I would ask him, so my understanding is that you raised a couple $100,000 off of your friends and family. Like, that's not an easy thing to do. So, like, what did you learn from doing that? How do you do that? Because, you know, like, you're taking risks with other people's money, and, like, you know, that's friends and family. They might resent you if it doesn't work out. And what did you learn? What would you recommend to people if they're doing the same, that they're trying to raise money like that? I'd be really interested to know what insights Jeffrey Bezos learned from going through that experience. That's what I would ask him. Oh, it's 8:54. It's time for me to get going, guys. Well, with that, Jeff, if you're watching, contact me. We can have a chit chat. We can make a video. It'd be cool. Anyways, I will see you guys. Well, let's set the title here. I haven't been doing very good at like setting what the titles for the days are. The GDP surprises. It was a pretty big surprise. Guys, I'll catch you tomorrow. In the meantime, stay excellent, team.